Insurance isn't one size fits all. That's why drivers have enjoyed Progressive's Name Your Price tool for years now. With the Name Your Price tool, you tell them what you want to pay, and they'll show you options that fit your budget. So whether you're picking out your first policy or just looking for something that works better for you and your family, they make it easy to see your options. Visit Progressive.com. Find a rate that works for you with the Name Your Price tool. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Welcome to Orioles on the Verge. This is Zach Spedden, joined as always by Bob Phelan and Nick Stevens. And when we signed off on our last episode, we teased that our draft coverage wasn't quite finished yet. And that is because on this episode, we were joined by Will Robertson, the Orioles Vice President of Domestic Scouting, to help us break down the 2026 MLB draft. And that will be on this episode of Orioles on the Verge, which is brought to you by IQ Bar, our exclusive snack, hydration, and coffee sponsor. IQ Bar Protein Bars, IQ Mix Hydration Mixes, and IQ Joe Mushroom Coffees are a delicious, low-sugar, brain and body fuel you need to win your day. The Ultimate Sampler Pack is a great way to try all IQ Bar products and flavors. You get 9 IQ Bars, 8 IQ Mix Sticks, and 4 IQ Joe Sticks. All IQ Bar products are clean label certified, entirely free from gluten, dairy, soy, GMOs, and artificial ingredients. All IQ Bar products are packed with clean, delicious ingredients that keep you physically and mentally fit, like magnesium, lion's mane, and more. With over 20,000 5-star reviews and counting, more people than ever are fueling their busy lifestyles with IQ Bars, brain and body boosting bars, hydration mixes, and mushroom coffees. Their Ultimate Sampler Pack includes all 3. IQ Bars become part of my daily routines, whether it's starting my morning with IQ Joe, grabbing an IQ Bar or IQ Mix to refuel or rehydrate after a hard workout. And right now, IQ Bar is offering our special podcast listeners 20% off all IQ Bar products, including the Ultimate Sampler Pack, plus free shipping. To get your 20% off, text MLB to 64,000. Text MLB to 64,000. That's MLB to 64,000. Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, we are joined by the Orioles Vice President of Domestic Scouting, Will Robertson. Will, how are you?
I'm good. I'm just getting settled into my hotel in Hoover, Alabama, and got a big East Coast Pro Showcase this week, so already on to the 2027s.
Never stops.
No, it sure doesn't. Not with this calendar.
So last year at this time, you were in a different job, Director of Pro Personnel. How was it transitioning your current role and running your first draft?
Yeah, it was a very different role. The commonality was that I was in the scouting realm the whole time, and I did a lot of my focus was on the draft the past 2 years, but that was in more of a cross-checking variety. So I was going all over the country and seeing players the same as I do now, but actually running the draft and having people report to me and all that comes with that is very, very different. So it's definitely has been a growing experience, but I'm surrounded by a lot of really good people around me who have helped make that transition a lot easier.
And I mean, you've been with the Orioles your entire professional career. I believe you, after you decorated college career at Davidson, you get drafted by the Orioles, you played in the system. How have you used that experience in your role now?
They've all built off of each other. It's a very interesting LinkedIn page, all with the Orioles, but starts with baseball player. And then I did a lot in the pro scouting world, working under Mike Snyder, and learned a lot about player evaluation, just being a front office employee in general. And I think that knowing what the pro landscape looks like from the major leagues down to the Dominican Summer League has really helped calibrate me on prospect value. Just what should a high A prospect look like? What does the major league waiver claim look like? And then all the value is sort of what you can generate above the players that you can get in minor league free agency on the waiver wire. So between doing that and the last 2 years working with Kobe Perez and doing some more international scouting, I feel like I've gotten a well-rounded player evaluation background, and hopefully can kind of layer in all those different perspectives to evaluate now exclusively domestic amateur talent.
Yeah, it really feels like the organization has done a really nice job of propping up guys, supporting them when they get into higher positions, and being like one live organism as opposed to separate parts?
Yeah, definitely. We have grown as a front office. I was on the earlier end, joining as a fellow or intern in 2020, and we were a tiny front office. And what that led to was being thrown a lot of responsibility and having to put on a lot of hats before I was probably qualified, or some would say ready. But you get thrown into the fire, get thrown into the deep end, and you definitely learn how to swim. So I think I was exposed to a lot very early on. That I'm really fortunate to have had a front row seat for how acquisitions are made in all markets. And yeah, we are a very collaborative group, and all hands on deck to try to make the best decisions we can.
Sounds like how I would describe it, going from teaching to startup company. I'm just wearing all different hats, learning everything, jumping off the deep end there. Yeah. Moving to looking at this year's draft class, though, looking at these guys as a whole, I guess just to start off broad, general question about like strategy. What was the overarching goal that you and your team had for this year's class?
Yeah, we definitely didn't come in saying we want this type of player. We want to be narrowly focused on this demographic. I think our goal was just to give ourselves a deep menu of options at each pick and each price point. So that meant evaluating players, high school hitters, high school pitchers, obviously college hitters and pitchers, making sure that we had options that we were excited about at each pick. And if we had extra bonus pool money laying around, or if we didn't, we would always have players that we thought were great value with the pick capital and signing bonus capital. So that's the big picture of, we just wanted options, and we wanted to be really thorough and organized and considerate of how we put together the draft board ahead of time, so that when draft day rolled around, we felt prepared that, when that player's at the top, we've done the work to feel confident that it was a strong acquisition.
Yeah, and must have been exciting to have a lot of options available to you with that 7th overall pick. Eric Booth Jr. obviously is the choice. Athleticism's been routinely in his scouting reports. It seems like he's made a lot of improvements across the board this spring, at least, reading outside sources. What areas of his game do you think have progressed the most in the past year?
Oh, you said it. The whole game has really improved. And I'll add that even from the spring to a workout we did at the beginning of June, and from that workout we did to what I've seen the past week with him in Sarasota and hitting BP at Camden Yards, he gets better each time. His swing has dramatically improved. I was looking at videos I had on my phone from April versus what he did in his live at bats yesterday, and he just keeps getting better. So his swing mechanics, I think, have consistently improved, which really let him harness some of his natural power. He's always seen the ball really well and had good hand-eye coordination, and now the swing mechanics just keep getting better, and the bat speed is excellent. He was throwing the ball better when we saw him down the stretch, so he just is somebody who seems to figure things out quickly and really take to coaching very quickly.
Well, that is very exciting. Is there any chance we see him in Delmarva this year?
Yeah, they're onboarding all of our draft guys now, so they just started getting live at bats. I don't think EJ had seen live pitching since May, so we're going to be evaluating how all the classes is looking and take into account all factors. But it's certainly something we're keeping the door open if he proves that he's ready.
Very cool.
In the second round, you're able to get Ty Head with the 46th pick overall, and this felt like a player that really fit the Orioles' approach in the draft, and a guy that we had mocked the Orioles a few times in our coverage leading up to the draft. How excited were you when he fell to that 46th pick?
Yeah, we thought he fit us really well. We thought that he would fit a lot of teams really well, and what he does is something that all teams value, which is control the strike zone at a really, really special level with how often he walks and how infrequently he strikes out. You take that skill set, you put it in a 6'3" frame with a lot of physical projection, and you layer on, I think he was a Gold Glove winning center fielder at the college level and certainly matches our evaluation of his center field ability. That's a player with a lot to like and a really exciting skill set to build off of in player development.
Moving down a little bit, I know there's been a decent amount of conversation about the 8th rounder, Will Plunkett. It's a high school guy, so obviously somebody that fan base little less aware of here, but he's a guy that I know when I look at this class, which I do like multiple times a day, to be honest, my eyes gravitate towards Will Plunkett. And I know Baseball America had him as labeled him a high school sleeper to watch going into the draft. Publications are starting to roll out, the updated top 30 list, and you see Will Plunkett's name in some of these lists. I know a lot of the fan conversation is kind of like, God, he was committed to Binghamton. It's not an SEC or ACC commit. No disrespect to Binghamton, obviously NCAA regional team last year, but it's kind of what makes this kid so special. Why are you ranking him in these top 30 lists? What's all the hype about? I know you mentioned a lot about how successful big leaguers leave clues year after year about what works, and you all want to identify those traits and potential draft picks. Which of those traits does Will Plunkett bring into the organization?
Yeah, Will's an exciting one. I think a late bloomer, as you referenced, as far as not being as visible on the elite circuit in the past year. And then he's up in New York, which is a colder weather state, and the scouting season starts later. So I think a lot of teams were playing catch up, and ourselves included, but we caught up quickly and were able to really get our arms around him. And we like a lot of what he brings to the table. It's a lot of things that, if he were seen extensively in a warmer weather state, or if he had been on the main circuit, players who show quality actions on the left side of the infield with a 6'3" frame and the hand-eye coordination to, make consistent, solid contact with a lot of body projection. That's a very coveted demographic and type of player. So we were really excited when he started showing more tools, and he really hit all spring. So there's a lot of narrative behind some growth opportunities. He was a big time basketball player as well. So we think that him focusing full time on baseball with a professional development environment, he can take some of those innate traits that you can't teach, like being 6'3" and hand eye and the arm strength to play on the left side of the infield, and really develop into a well-rounded infield prospect.
Some whispers of Jane Loray in there, maybe, potentially. He was a great pick last year. When it comes to pitching in this draft class, in the current era, it just seems like pitching evolves so fast, so it changes. The hottest pitch this year is old news in a year or two. How important is it for you to bring in guys that have a good feel for spin and a growth mindset, which has seemed to be the leading reason for the success of the pitching development, which has really popped off since maybe 2023? That draft seems like just been firing on all cylinders. Is that one of the most important things for you guys?
Yeah, no, you said it. The landscape of pitcher evaluation development is changing at a really fast rate, and we're doing our best to not only keep up with that, but stay ahead of it. So we're constantly looking in the mirror and talking with our pitching player development team. We work extremely closely with that group in evaluating the pitching talent. And yeah, I think that we have things that we're more confident that we can improve once they show up to pro baseball. And then there are other things that are a little bit more innate or harder to coach. So we're constantly looking at the performance track record, the scouting visual, and then, some of those traits that we think that, hey, if we make this adjustment, this player could take off. And, I think that we've got some pitchers in this class. And as you referenced, our top prospect lists are littered with players who have been, our pitchers specifically, who have been stock up upon arrival.
You mean college ERA isn't the leading factor?
College ERA is something that we're aware of, but there's a lot of context that goes into even the ERA itself, and then obviously the more predictive components of the player's performance and pitch movement profile.
You talked after the draft about being deliberate in the scouts, the whole scouting department being very deliberate with this year's class in it's kind of the high school demographic. Were there any specific reasons? Like, and you guys kept us on our toes with this. I know last year it was like we saw a trend of, it seemed like a lot of JUCO arms, guys that, big velos, good pitch shapes, committed to bigger programs, trying to maybe get them in pro ball early. Now you guys shooting to get guys in even earlier with so many high school picks. Was it something specific that led to that strategy this year? I know you talked about the financial aspect and that being a major kind of thing that I think a lot of more casual fans when it comes to the draft, I think kind of struggle in fully grasping. Even someone like us, people like us who are just like obsessed with this stuff, it's even hard to wrap our heads around the financial aspect of the draft. But was there anything specific that led to this type of strategy this year?
I definitely didn't go into the scouting calendar like we need to select more high school players. We definitely wanted to be prepared and have like I said, a deep menu of option. And on the high school side, you really have to scout them in person. It's a lot harder to play catch up because you don't have all the NCAA Division I games are on TV, and we have video clips of those. We have those performance game logs and stat lines and TrackMan. So to be prepared on the high school side, you definitely have to be intentional on the front end. And we did an excellent job of that and presented a lot of opportunities. And, the draft and the amateur scouting landscape is very competitive now. And every team is trying to look for a competitive edge, and they're doing a very good job of scraping off the best high school talent before they get to college. And then the players who get to college and perform well and do things that are associated with professional success, they're being appreciated. So, just constantly doing everything we can to stay at the forefront of the draft innovation, as all 29 other teams are pouring a lot of resources to getting better and trying to beat each other.
Insurance isn't one size fits all. That's why drivers have enjoyed Progressive's Name Your Price tool for years now. With the Name Your Price tool, you tell them what you want to pay, and they'll show you options that fit your budget. So whether you're picking out your first policy or just looking for something that works better for you and your family, they make it easy to see your options. Visit Progressive.com. Find a rate that works for you with the Name Your Price tool. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
You just talked a moment ago about Will Plunkett as a multi-sport athlete. You were able to get another prominent multi-sport athlete out of high school in this draft, and that's Kevin Roberts Jr. I think that a lot of fans were blown away when they started to see clips of his swing and the kind of power he has. What kind of upside do you and your team think that he has coming into the system?
Yeah, he's got a ton. I mean, it's obvious. To one clip is all you need to see. There's just not many 17-year-olds on earth with his 6'5", 220-pound body who get a football offer from Ole Miss just running a 40-yard dash and track and basketball. I mean, he's capable of things athletically that not many people on earth are. And that's mostly shown up on the baseball field for the totality of his prospect career. There have been times where he's been ranked the number one high school player in the class. I think there was a mock that had him going to us at number 7 at one point out there. So he has, really impressed people on the baseball field in addition to just being a physical specimen. And if it all clicks, he has the pedigree of being among the top players in this class in any capacity.
I saw something that he can hit like 96, 97 on the mound too. Is this the American Ohtani we're talking about?
We're not planning to pitch him, but no, he was a very legitimate pitching prospect for a lot of his high school career. And yeah, he's got a huge arm that now translates to the outfield.
And in a more serious note, this is a weird time with the CBA expiring following the season. Obviously, there's been a lot of, not asking you to get into the specifics of this, by the way, but there's a lot of back and forth between the two sides about what the next year's draft is going to look like. So how do you try to prepare for that? It just seems like a lot on your plate right now.
Yeah, no, we're just going to keep our head down and go about it the way we always would. And, just want to be prepared. I think that, baseball will still be going on in our world. So we will do all the things we do in the off season to get ready for the high school and college calendar and plan to hit it hard, and we'll react to whatever comes from the rest of it. But I think the draft and the amateur landscape, right now is we can keep doing our jobs as normal.
Sounds like a good idea.
I don't know if you guys have any more. I got a couple more, if you don't mind. One player specific, Jimmy Anderson, real quick. Just that was a surprise. I know I was at the Futures game, watching like Irish take BP when the pick was made, and already experiencing FOMO. Not being at home watching the draft at my usual setup going on, and I see Jimmy Anderson's name pop up as notification to begin day 2. And like the same Jimmy Anderson you all drafted in the 19th round last year, incredible numbers, obviously at the JUCO level this year, but beyond the baseball card stats, like what about his growth and development over the last year made you guys target him aggressively this year in the 5th round?
Yeah, we've appreciated his skill set and track record, for a long time. And I think that the rest of the baseball industry was also, aware of his skill set, so it was more competitive this year. But he's really grown up a lot, and I think he was ready for the draft this year and expected to hear his name called and all that comes with that. So he's improved a lot as a player. His power numbers surged. He has a nice track record hitting with wood, which really stood out to us in the 2025 class. As another player who sticks in the dirt and has a well-rounded offensive skill set. So, yeah, we were thrilled that it lined up, and I think Birdland had a special place in his heart throughout this draft cycle, and we were able to line it up this year, which was exciting for all involved. And shout out to Ryan Carlson and L.A. Woodard on our side, who have been banging that drum for quite some time now.
I know he had a monster Northwoods League performance like 2 years ago. How impactful is summer ball performance, specifically like leading up to the draft? So do you all use it as an opportunity to confirm notes and evaluations you have on players, or has there ever been a situation where, I know you've only been in this role for a limited time, but is there a situation where you see someone out there in the draft league or on the Cape, and it's a late shoot up your board type situation? Thinking like JT Quinn had that dominant run in the Cape last year before you guys drafted him. Christian Rodriguez even go down a few rounds. He pitched, I think, the most dominant outing in MLB draft league history with Frederick right before the draft. How do you guys utilize those performances and looks?
Yeah, no, you're right to identify that's something that we continue to monitor as we try to run through the finish line. And yeah, as it's turned out, a lot of our picks and a lot of picks that have gone pretty well have come from seeing something take off in some of those wood bat college summer leagues. Quinn's a great example where he was on an entirely another level in that Cape run, and we believed that was the real JT Quinn, and the only brighter days were ahead. So we did. We definitely monitor it. It's the wood bat is a big deal. It's a transition that you're not 100% sure how it's going to go for hitters, and so is playing summer baseball, being out on your own instead of in the environment of a college or high school program. Who takes to that environment well. It's analogous to pro baseball in some ways. So yeah, there's Colin McKinney, Carlos Sanchez, several of our players this year showcased really impressive stuff in college summer leagues, and that's definitely something we notice.
You mentioned Carlos Sanchez. I was actually going to bring him up. 10th rounder, NAIA school, a big program, LSU Shreveport, but still an NAIA school. What is it about? I know it's easier. I feel like from a fan perspective, at least. Like if I'm watching a mid-major game, I can identify. I can see a pitcher and be like, that stuff will play. I feel like that's a lot easier to be like, yeah, it's 96, 97. He's spotting the fastball. His stuff's working. That will play at the next level for sure. And with pitchers, look at the Orioles' own examples. You see the Nestor Hermans come out of Seattle, Trey Gibson out of Liberty, Brandon Young out of UL Lafayette. You see a lot of those pitchers from smaller schools emerge, but hitters, I feel like that's a little bit more rare. It's like when you're scouting a guy like a Carlos Sanchez at a small NAIA school, like what is it that you're looking for in those bats that will make you say like, this guy is someone who could potentially help our organization?
Yeah, it's tough, and there's no guarantee that we're going to be right. But with Carlos, he had hit everywhere he's gone in every environment, multiple schools, multiple summer leagues. The theme is that he's always hit, and he's always avoided strikeouts at a level that shows it's not just taking advantage of bad pitching, but is exceptional in any environment. So basically he's done exactly what he could do in any environment that he's been in. And, you're looking in the 10th round, or like I said, the teams are pretty good at knowing who the best players in the SEC and ACC are. So looking around late in the draft, like, hey, where might there be some value left to untap? It's, if this guy's hit everywhere he's gone, maybe there's something here. So there's no one thing, but you want him to have major league tools, which he's demonstrated. And again, all of our hitters that we drafted this year came to a pre-draft workout and saw him hit, with wood bats. It's like, this is not just somebody who plays really well in environments that don't typically produce a ton of major leaguers, but he's hitting it as hard as pro prospects do. He looks like a professional prospect, so gives you that extra bit of confidence that it's real.
And he's listed as a utility player, which I thought was different too. Is he more of a catcher, or he can really just play anywhere?
It's definitely the can play anywhere part. At that same workout, he threw from the outfield, then ran and grabbed an infielder's glove, took infield, then threw on some catcher's gear and threw down. I mean, he does it all. So, I think we'll throw him in a pro ball. A player like that can find ways to get in the lineup by playing everywhere, and we'll see what sticks. But in an ideal world, he can kind of just be the skeleton key that, finds a way in the lineup and helps, put together lineups with limited benches, and that versatility was a positive. But yeah, we were deciding what to announce him as. Like, it could be any of them, so let's just announce all.
Love that. Yeah. My last question is, which pick do you think is going a little bit under the radar and will have us and potentially fans that take notice of the minor leagues like us in 2027?
You've asked about the majority of the class so far, so I think you guys are on top of it. I'll highlight one more name. Let's go Braden Fry here. He's one that I don't think there's a ton on him in the public sphere, and he's just still 17 years old. Was really happy that we appreciated the things he's done well, which is put together competitive at bats, really gritty plate appearances, and has always put up numbers. And we think that, as he grows and gets into a professional environment, maybe he could surprise some people relative to how much he's talked about.
I have one last one. We've talked a lot over the years on our show, just kind of right after the draft. We're going to see hopefully a couple of these guys here in a couple of weeks. I know tie heads are like August 10th. I'm at Delmarva, but we're going to see hopefully as many of these guys as possible over these last only like 3 weeks or so. But I know we always talk about how like this is really for us just like a chance to like see them in action a little bit, especially guys that we aren't as familiar with, but and kind of take notes. If there's whispers like this guy's a really good defender, and we see that in a game in Delmarva, like jot that down, remember that for next year. But knowing that we always kind of say like these last 3 weeks, if Ty Head goes down to Delmarva and plays down there, like I know personally, I'm not looking at the baseball card stats. Like I don't care what the baseball card stats really say over these last 3 weeks, because like you mentioned, some of these guys their season's been done for 2+ months, or maybe they went to the draft league or the Cape and they stayed hot, but they just played 60, 70 college games plus summer ball, and they're rolling right into this. They're rolling into orientation now. So I imagine that the bodies, and I know you've made a deep NCAA super regional run, so you know what your body feels like after that long, grueling college season. What's the expectation for these players that hit Delmarva and maybe even get up to Frederick by the end of the year? What's the expectation from the organization in that small sample size?
Yeah, I think that what you're touching on is what we want to do is put them in the best position to have the best year next year. And really even beyond that is like what sets them up best as a prospect. So, we're not trying to, like you put it, solve for best baseball card stats, or if they're great, then you love to see that. And if they're not great, it's definitely not something you read into too much. There's a million examples each year for both our organization and around the league where players look dramatically different in that tiny little sample versus the next year. So it's really about getting them acclimated to playing professional baseball under the lights, I think, is a success in and of itself. So when they show up to a level next year, they can really hit the ground running. You obviously want to see it go well, but I do, what I've learned in my responsibilities as a pro evaluator and as someone who showed up and played well himself after the draft, you can't read too much into those performances in a vacuum.
It's kind of reminiscent of like now with the staggered schedule of the, single A ends this week, double A the next, triple A the next, and the guys that just get that 1 week in that next level. It's almost like you at least get a feel for it, know what you're looking at for the next year.
Yeah, no, it genuinely helps. And I've seen that myself again firsthand, where just I know when I walk into the clubhouse where I'll find the snacks and where, it's just, you don't have any mystery. You kind of get settled a little bit. And on the human level, that stuff really does matter. So, it is good to get a little bit of a taste of it. And we try to do it when it makes sense.
Now head to our last question here, which is part of our final segment, Last Call, brought to you by Checker Spot Brewing, located at 1421 Ridgely Street. Checker Spot is not far from Camden Yards, making it the perfect place for a pre- or post-game drink. If you're thinking about checking out Checker Spot sometime soon, be sure to do so this Saturday, August 1st, as they team up with fellow South Baltimore Brewery District breweries Pickett and Mate for the annual hot dog race. Checker Spot, a two-time winner, is going to be running as relish with Pickett, the reigning champion, as mustard, and Mate as ketchup. That will be starting on Saturday afternoon in the parking lot next to Pickett Brewing. Check out Checker Spot and South Baltimore Brewery District social media for more details on that event. However, if you can't make it on Saturday, there's never a bad time to go to Checker Spot and watch the game, because plenty of food to go along with good drinks and television for following the action. They're also open 7 days a week. That is Checker Spot Brewing, located at 1421 Ridgely Street in South Baltimore. And just to go to our last question here, judged by our listeners' reaction, I think the reaction a lot of Orioles fans have had so far, there is a lot of excitement about Gunnar Garrison. And I think a lot of people were pleasantly surprised that the Orioles were able to sign him out of the draft. When did you have a sense that he was going to sign, and just how good could he be?
We stayed in touch with him throughout all of day two, and Hendrik Hurst, assistant director, was working the line with his agent, and we weren't exactly sure how much money we'd have down the stretch, and we finally got to the point where we were confident we would have enough signing bonus pool to meet his demands, and he was excited to come to us. So he's somebody who got a lot better this spring, and has some of those things you can't teach. He's just a huge beast, basically, and has a loud fastball and some secondary feel. So we think he's another one that has a lot to harness, and fans were right to be excited that we were able to bring him in. And I know he's thrilled to be in Sarasota and living the professional baseball lifestyle.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. And now that you're underway with your work for the 2027 draft, best of luck with that.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, man.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.